going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN, right here live on our FTN Network YouTube page, also on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here, hanging out with you. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic weekend. We had a Monday off, a lot of great plays on our FTN Network YouTube page. From the FTN team, make sure you are subscribed to our FTN Network YouTube page. We got a lot going on. It's a fun time of the season. I know the NFL has kind of slowed down a little bit, but baseball is picking up. I shout out to our guy, Vlad Sedler, who has his fantasy baseball projections live over at ftnfantasy.com. The draft guide has been out for quite some time, and it's fantastic. There's a ton of great content from not only some sharp minds over at FTN, but some sharp outside baseball minds who have had a lot of success playing high-stakes baseball. That's right. We are going to get back into baseball as we get closer to the end of the NFL season. It never dies, right? We talked about that here on the show. Free agency players we've brought up over the past couple of episodes. The top 10 draft board, what's going to happen up at the top with the Bears having the number one pick. So free agency, you're going to have the draft. You're going to have a lot of offseason moves. Is it the last game from Tom Brady as a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Kind of seemed like it, didn't it? The way that he talked, he actually was choked up a little bit in his presser last night. I heard it in his voice. I mean, I can kind of tell when people are like, oh, like, I don't know. Is anybody else like that when they have conversations like with somebody or they hear somebody talk and you kind of hear a little bit in his voice? And to me, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. But after the game, when he left, he gave a little hat tip. Here you go. Here you go. You're welcome for the Super Bowl. Thanks. It's been a nice run. You know, it's been a fun 2 years. I still have a lot to offer, but it won't be here. It won't be with the Bucs. There's a lot of reports, and that's what we do in this industry. We're going to speculate now all offseason with Tom Brady. Where is he going? Is he done? Is he going to retire? I don't think he goes out like that. I don't think Tom Brady goes out like that. There's no way. I just don't feel like he will. Of course, he's linked to Las Vegas, the Raiders. He's linked to the Raiders, and it'll be the topic all season long. It really will. And apparently there's an echo on my mic, and we'll just fix it on the fly because we're live television here. That's what we do. It was coming in off the computer, so we should be good now. Are we better now? We give the okay. We're good to go, potentially. George says there's an echo, and we're better. All right, we're off. We're a little rusty here this morning. It's all good. No worries. But Tom Brady, the hat tip, the salute, and then talking to the Tampa Bay, the whole brass, right? The media after he was mentioning things like, just want to be thankful. You know, you guys took me with open arms. You guys have been really good to me. I'm really appreciative of all our relationships that we've had here together in Tampa Bay. So I think he's going to go. Kyle Woods in the house. Yo, sound great. Sound better now. I think, Kyle, we were off to a roaring start here on Mean Streets. But anyways, I think the bats. George is running the show today. Michael Govier is our new producer here on Mean Streets. You're going to see a lot of Govier, and hopefully you've seen a lot of Govier, I think, on our FTN Network YouTube page. The Prize Picks Prop Show. Michael Govier always coming in hot with his great plays. He's going to be a part of this show moving forward, behind the scenes, in front of the camera. He's a 5-tool player. I think he's Medi loves the bats. We all love the bats in this show. I think Govier is like Ronald Acuna Jr., up and coming, rising superstar in the industry. 5-tool player, can do it all. You're going to see a lot of Govier. We got some nice plans for Michael here in the future, and we'll see him on the camera very, very soon. But so Brady, you know, linked to the Raiders, and I think that's the easiest one. But I think it makes a lot of sense because Tom Brady, a couple years ago, you know, we heard the quote. I forget what show it was from, but he said, like, "You're going with that bleep guy," and we found out later on that it was Gruden going with Derek Carr, right, with the Raiders. So we have that already. That, you know, he was linked to the Raiders. He wanted to go to the Raiders, and then we have Josh McDaniels. And then we have the Raiders with Derek Carr. They're going to explore trades. He wasn't with the team for the final couple weeks of the season. Wasn't with the team. Like, was asked to stay at home, right? Now, don't be a distraction. That's it. You're done. You're not going to be a member of the Raiders anymore. Is it a quick fix in Las Vegas? Did they draft a quarterback? They still could draft a quarterback to play behind Brady for a couple of years, but do Raider fans want Tom Brady? chucked the ball 66 times yesterday in that loss to the Cowboys. It was no contest. Dallas went in there and made easy work of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's kind of what we talked about on the show last week when we gave the pick for Dallas. We didn't feel great about the Cowboys. I don't think anybody who was joining the show, Kyle, Maddie, like nobody felt good about picking the Dallas Cowboys, but they had shown us more all season long. I don't know if Myers cut. Are they going to cut the kicker today? How do you miss 4 extra points? My goodness. And then they didn't even settle for a field goal. I know he got one later on. That helps the confidence. Confidence is a crazy thing in all sports. When you're feeling confident, you're feeling good, you make things happen. Right? Ask the Jacksonville Jaguars in the second half of that game. And some news that came down this morning. We're going to break and get into the bracket and get into the divisional matchups because now we do have the final 4 games. But some news out of Los Angeles, some coaching changing news, but it's not what you think. It's not what you think. Brandon Staley looks like he's going to keep his job. Joe Lombardi, offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Chargers, he is gone. See you later. And also pass game coordinator. I think he's like the quarterback coach, Shane Day. He's gone as well. So some changes to the front office, but no changes to Staley. I'm a little surprised. I hear the Sean Payton rumors. It's just not really the Charger way. Payton said, was he on the show with Coward? I think he was last week or just the other day. I saw the clip yesterday. He's talking about the interviews that he's had. He's going to have a couple interviews with different teams. And then he was asked the compensation. And of course, he's just speculating, but it does sound like a mid to late round first pick. And it's going to cost a lot of money too. Like it's a big splash. I'm thinking about Herbert with Payton and it's very exciting, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see Staley keep his job. But, man, a lot of things I wanted to get into from the weekend. We'll break here. We'll get into some of the stuff. Some takeaways from the weekend. We'll transition into the new matchups, a lot of rematches as well. We're finally going to get that Bills and Bengals game that we all wanted, and we're so thankful that DeMar Hamlin is healthy and he's I mean, we're just so such a scary moment, and a scary moment last night too, with Russell Gage. And I think, all signs point to him being okay as well. But it's nice that Hamlin is fine and healthy, but we're going to get that game that we all wanted, Burrow versus Allen, and it should be fantastic. So we're going to break and we're going to get into a lot here. We'll break down some of the matchups. I want to talk about Lamar Jackson. He had a cryptic quote on Instagram. Got to talk about Lamar here for a second or two. I got 5 potential landing spots for Lamar Jackson. Could be fun. Could be a fantasy thing. We will do some one and done talk this week as well. Absolutely, Kyle. The one and done lineup that we presented did okay. We'll get into all of that. This week, we're going to hammer home some picks. We're going to have some props. We're going to revisit the bracket. We're going to talk one and done week 2. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. We have some NHL picks and props as well. 8 games on the ice tonight in the NHL. Dangle Betzelli already live on our FTN Network YouTube page and coming your way on Game Plus Network as well. Lots to get to here on Mean Streets. More bats, I'm sure, with George running the show with Govier. And there we go. We are off. We're going to break. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN Data.
Welcome back in, George. If you have the one and done board that we gave last week, if you want to chuck that up, if you can find that, by all means, chuck her up. If not, all good. Kyle, later on in the week, we're going to hammer this home. It takes me a little bit, not going to lie. I got a good feeling of the way that I'm going to lean with some of these matchups, but the one and done lineup, I'll present what I'm going to roll with on week 2. And week 1 last week was a little bit different. I kept, for the most part, all the players that were there. Except for the quarterback, I made a couple switches. So I went with Travis Etienne and Austin Eckler as my running backs. Went with Keenan Allen. I expected a bigger day from Keenan Allen. Thank you, George. So we did make a couple changes here. I came off Kirk Cousins. I mean, if you look at the box score, Kirk Cousins had a great game. I understand what people are talking about, and I don't get it. I'm with you guys. Like 4th and 8, what are you doing? You're throwing the ball 3 yards down the field. What the heck? Like, what are you doing? Unfortunately, the Vikings, right? It's what we talked about. The Giants, we'll recap all these games in just a little bit. But that one and done lineup, we switched it with a second. So we came off of Kirk Cousins and we went to Josh Allen. And my thinking was Josh Allen week 1, week 2, I'm going to roll with Burrow. I'll roll with Mahomes week 3. I'm saying weeks in playoffs, divisional AFC championship. And then I'll just take whatever quarterback makes it on the NFC side. I mean, it may be block party, as we call them on this show. I mean, Purdy and the Giant and the Niners. Oh my goodness. Or maybe it's Jalen, or maybe we have a surprise quarterback that gets through there. Maybe it's Dak. I mean, Dak was fantastic last night. If you use Dak in the one and done, I mean, you have yourself a really good start. He was phenomenal. 4 passing touchdowns, had a rushing touchdown. I mean, he picked apart that secondary. He's really, really good. He was on point last night, but a tougher matchup this week. So that lineup, I think, got about 128. So I said I came off Cousins. I went to Allen. Just looking at it. Etienne, Eckler, Keenan Allen. Expect a little bit more from Keenan Allen. Justin Jefferson, rolled with him. I mean, quiet, right? Looked like the first drive, this guy was going to have an unbelievable day. And then he just was a no-show. And I get it. Double coverage, triple coverage. Kirk Cousins is afraid. He's afraid. We've seen it multiple times. They want to throw it to JJ with Jair on him. They want to throw to JJ with Darius Slay on him earlier, right? Unfortunately. Mark Andrews rolled him out at tight end. Pretty good day. 12.3 fantasy points. Justin Tucker, Chris Godwin. I went with Chris Godwin. That's the swap I made. I took out Saquon, who had a massive day, but now, I could use Saquon this week, I guess. And then in the flex, I had Chris Godwin, who had a big day as well. I mean, a ton of catches, ends up with 18 fantasy points in a full point setting. Bills D didn't do a whole lot, 5 fantasy points there. But moving forward, we'll talk. You're 30 points behind the leader. That's nothing. That's okay. The graphic curse. The graphic curse. Yeah. The 30 points is nothing. I think I'm roughly the same, 30 points behind, but that's okay. You can make that up, right? You want to have guys into the Super Bowl. I think it's key. Different strategies, attack maybe one side of the bracket, AFC, these high-powered games like Cincy and Buffalo. This is a tricky one, right? I mean, you can get a bunch of pieces inside that game, and then you can lose a bunch of pieces, but then you could stack maybe Mahomes, and then you have all the other pieces inside the NFC, right? San Fran looks unstoppable. Can we bring up the bracket? Let's bring up the bracket. I want to roll through some of the matchups and just kind of roll through like some takeaways, and then we'll slowly get into the divisional opponents. I guess we got lucky, with Jacksonville. I saw some people. I wanted to see. I love the live bets, right? I mean, I had a little sprinkle on 20-1. I would jumped on the plus 20.5 when it was 27-0. I was thinking to myself, man, 20 points is a lot. The Chargers are going to sit back in this game. They don't have Keenan Allen. They're not really successful running the football. It is Staley. Doug Peterson's going to be aggressive. What an absolute collapse by the Chargers and their Twitter account, tweeting out last week about the receipts. We want to see the receipts from you guys trashing the Chargers. Chargers going to Charger. And then what happened? They did the exact same thing that all the analysts talked about them doing. They didn't run the ball in the second half. They didn't have Mike Williams to stretch the field. Why? Because Staley played him in week 17, week 18, didn't have those players. And also Bosa. Bosa had a freak out. He had a meltdown. He tossed his helmet. He got flagged in the 2-point
conversion that they went to, they probably kicked the extra point, because Bosa had the meltdown. They were able to move up. Trevor Lawrence had the Michael Jordan Space Jam, stretch the arm. Huntley tried it himself. Dude, you're not 6'4", you're not 6'5". You can't be doing that stuff. Like, that was just a brutal play call. But he stretched out. He got it. Chargers end up losing the game on a last-second field goal, which maybe that's a game-tying field goal and it goes into overtime. But just everything with the Chargers, I am surprised that Staley is still hanging around. But some changes, as we mentioned off the top of the show, to the coaching staff on the offensive side of things. Staley, year 2, got them into the playoffs. I guess that's a big. He's going to learn, just like Mike McDaniel's going to learn as well in Miami, right? Like, what the heck was that towards the end of the game? A lot of these powerhouses. Buffalo, Cincinnati, those 2 teams struggled. And I want to just preference divisional matchups. It's tough to beat a team 3 times. I know that those games were rubber matches. Miami won the first one, Buffalo won the second one, Baltimore won the first one, Cincinnati won the second one. It was a rubber match. We'll get into the Eagles and the Giants in a little bit. It's tough to beat a team 3 times. I know the Niners did it to Seattle, but Seattle was leading at half. Like, they were in that game. I know it was just halftime, but they were hanging around. Like, it's tough to beat a divisional opponent 3 times in a year. So I want to give credit to, the Dolphins, to the defense, getting after Allen, creating some turnovers. Skyler made some nice throws in that game. He really did. He made some really nice throws in that game. There were some drops. Jalen Waddle didn't help him out. There was 2 drops from Waddle that I can think of. There was a Gesicki off the fingertips, a beautiful throw. There was a Tyreek Hill drop as well. Kyle's mentioning the vape on the sidelines, which is jokes. He kind of snuck it in under his glove, the vape. But, I'm still confused about what happened at the end of that game. He's calling the plays. He's slow to getting the plays in there. That's been a thing all year in Miami. There's been talk about that. I've been following Dolphins reporters, hearing, Mike McDaniel is obviously a great play caller. He's fantastic. What he did with the Dolphins this year is phenomenal. And unfortunately with Tua Tagovailoa, like, not being in that game was like, it was a bit of a downer, right? Maybe that game changes. Maybe it's different, right? Tua, I believe, 1 loss, I think 8-1 in games that he had started and finished. He was phenomenal with the Dolphins this year. So you're going to 3rd string quarterback, 7th round rookie quarterback, 2 7th round rookie quarterbacks in Purdy and with Skyler. But Skyler, at the end of the day, like, the inexperience caught up to them on the field with the quarterback play. And also just, there was a couple moments in that game. There was a 3rd and 18 on Miami's, I think, 5 or 10, where just, like, hand it off. I think Tony Romo mentioned on the broadcast, maybe just hand it off. And you live to fight another day. You don't turn it over. You're up in that game. I think they were up 4 points in that game. At that point, you kick it away. You rely on your defense. Defense have been playing good. Instead, you turn it over. You give the Bills good field position, and I thought that was the turning point. But I still don't understand the end of the game when it looked like they were close to the first down, but it sounded like when McDaniel talked in his press conference that somebody in the headset told him that they got the first down. So he's calling a play for the first down. Meanwhile, it's not a first down. It's 4th and 1. The play comes in late, delay game penalty. There was multiple delay game penalties. Staley, McDaniel, young coaches. Nick Sirianni made some mistakes last year. I kind of expect them to make some mistakes this time as well. Like, young coaches learning a thing or two. I always say on the show, learn to lose before you learn how to win. I think McDaniel's a really good head coach. People that are calling for his job, I think that's ludicrous talk. If there's something that the NFL finds out where they played him when Tua shouldn't played, sure. But if the doctors told him he's fine, the doctors told him he's fine. That's not a McDaniel. I think he's a really good head coach, and I think he's going to learn a thing or two. But that was a tough game. Gove told me in the green room he was on the Dolphins as a sneaky little defense. They had the fumble return touchdown. They had a couple turnovers from Josh Allen, 2 picks. I thought they played pretty good. They kept them in the game, and you know what? The Bills escaped. They got through it. Maybe just an emotional game too. Like, all the emotion that they had in the game before with the Nyheim Hines 2 return touchdowns and Hamlin. Like, it's a lot. They've gone through a lot here, Buffalo. They escaped. They can feel better, right? They maybe not as nervous. Like, whew. And the same sort of thing with the Bengals. You saw Joe Burrow after the game. Whew, got by. Just got by. And Huntley, with that turnover, it was a massive turning point. I don't know if Cincinnati was going to score again. Baltimore's defense was great. And now Cincinnati, limping in here into the divisional round. They're missing pieces on the offensive line. Jonah Williams, first round pick a couple years ago, he's given up a lot of sacks, but he's not going to play. He's week to week. You're missing a couple offensive linemen, right tackle, secondary's banged up just a little bit. Joe Burrow was sacked, I think, 4 times in that game. That was more times. He was sacked more times in that game than the combined 8-game winning streak that they had heading into that matchup. They had kept him upright. The offensive line had played good. And now you got a Bills team who really can't get pressure bringing 4, and a team in Cincy that can't protect. So that's going to be a big, a huge talking point all week long. It's going to be keys to the game. You got a guy in Burrow who makes really good decisions. He's not careless with the football. And then a guy in Joe Burrow plays a little bit of hero ball here and there at time. And it kind of gets him into trouble. But I got to lean to Buffalo right now. And on the other side of that bracket, San Fran, no real surprise for San Fran to get by Seattle. Purdy, I mean, it's been 31 plus points in every single start, but one, he's perfect so far under center. It's he played really good. He looked like a 7th round rookie to start that game. Some nerves, some careless throws, sailed a couple, but he looked fantastic in the second half. And then the Eagles and the Giants. And what we talk about on this show is Brian Daboll, like coach of the year. There's no question, Brian Daboll, and what the Giants did. Again, they kind of came off of their game plan all year long. We saw a lot of Saquon. I think 13 of 16 games, Daniel Jones has been held to 220 passing yards or fewer. He had 2 games of 300 passing yards. One of the games was against the Giants. He did it again. He ran. There was a lot of run design plays. He was phenomenal. He was great. Did not get the Richie James. I don't think we did well at all when it came to props. We didn't get Keenan Allen. We needed one more catch from Keenan. We needed Richie James for like another catch and another 10 yards. There was one play where he's in the middle of the field and went off the fingertips. It was like the only throw that Daniel Jones really didn't make. I mean, he was basically perfect in that game. Picked apart that Vikings secondary, which we thought he would do. He had a great game. I think things will change a little bit. The game plan will change in a matchup against the Eagles. Maybe they run the football a little bit more, keep Jalen and the offense off the field. So Daboll, a lot of credit. The other prop we didn't get was like George Kittle. Travis Kelce didn't play, so we didn't get that one. George Kittle didn't get that prop either. But the picks were fine. We got every spread besides the Buffalo one, and we did get the totals. Hopefully we can keep that going here on this show. What was that? What did I see in the last second? Was that bats? More bats? I mean, George, you did it yourself, dude. I mean, I should have known. You put thanks. I mean, you didn't jinx CMC. There's no jinx in CMC. The guy's an absolute stud. Are you kidding me? He's number 1 pick overall in fantasy next year, unless you really like wide receivers. Niners, Crews, Jags. We got lucky with the Jags, right? It's more Staley and company. I just don't understand the play calling. They don't run the ball in the second half, and Jacksonville didn't run the ball in the first half. Like, come on, Peterson. Get Trevor Lawrence in there, his first playoff game. Don't have this guy chucking. They were all over those little short intermediate throws. But Doug, he regrouped in the second half. They ran the ball a little bit more. They kind of stayed to a true game plan, and it worked for them. Bills, it didn't look like we were ever going to get this one. The Giants +3, the Ravens in that third matchup, right? And the defense played really good, +9.5. And then the Cowboys, which to me was the toughest game to call. It was back and forth. I didn't feel great about it, but the Cowboys rolled. Got the push on the bottom there with Baltimore and Cincy, and then the over in those other 2 games. But Trevor Lawrence, 4 picks in the first, looked like Nathan Peterman watch, looked like a true sophomore quarterback in his first start as a quarterback, like in the playoffs. And then the other side, Justin Herbert. I don't want to be too hard on Herbert, right? Mike Williams, no vertical threat there. And again, I just felt like they should have ran the ball and killed the clock in the second half. The Giants cruised, the Niners cruised, and that's it. The bracket's still intact, and I think we may have to make some changes. We'll talk about them here on the other side of the break. No vaping on the sidelines. That's the comment of the day. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
Welcome back in. We do have a question there from Mehdi we can get to. If you see that one, George, I think it's up near the top. You're all over it, as per usual. Going to hit you with a dynasty question coming off a championship this year. Congratulations. But looking at the future, would you trade Chubb for a younger talent or try to squeeze another year out of Nick Chubb? His current startable backs are Chubb, Jamal, Akers, Taylor, Dobbins. Dobbins had some interesting comments too. I kind of agreed with all of them. I didn't like the fact that he said they would have won with Lamar Jackson. I thought he was taking a shot at Huntley. I thought Huntley was okay in that game. I mean, he ran them down the field there. It was a nice tackle at the end. Yeah, the play at the end, is that on Huntley or is that on Roman? Is that a bad play call? I think it might be, right? What I agreed with Dobbins is give the guy the rock. My goodness, he topped 100 yards, with rushing and receiving combined. Why is Gus Edwards getting the same amount of carries running into a wall? Like, Gus Edwards was not efficient in that game. Dobbins has a higher ceiling. I agree with Dobbins. I think he should touch the ball more. I like where you're at with Dobbins. I think he's a nice back. I mean, people may want to sell high on, or I don't know. I would buy low on Dobbins in Dynasty. I'll get to this one from Timothy in just a little bit. The Chubb ones. So Chubb, 27 years old, I think. I would squeeze another year out of him. I really like Chubb coming into next year. We had the way too early rankings. I think I had him aggressively ranked. I think I had him as like a top 5 running back. He's at the end of the day, he's always near the top in rushing yards. Always near the top. No Kareem Hunt, I don't think. Look at this guy. Is this way too early? Where did I have him? 5? So this is probably a little bit too aggressive. Like Jacobs, if I'm redoing this, I'll probably go Jacobs and Taylor maybe ahead of him, and Chubb goes to 7. But nobody ever wants Chubb. Nobody wants Chubb because he doesn't catch any passes. But at the end of the day, he catches like 20 passes. He had a receiving touchdown in the final game with Deshaun Watson. And with the few games with Watson, he averaged like 90 rushing yards. Chubb is great. And if they don't bring back Kareem Hunt, which I don't think they will, or Deonis Johnson, maybe he falls into more catches. Maybe he takes a bit of a larger role like we saw this year with Derrick Henry, catching a couple screen passes here and there. Get the ball in this guy's hands in space and watch him do work. Like another year from Chubb. I like Chubb. I think, you just won a championship. If you could trade him, I don't think you could trade him for like a Breece Hall or a Kenneth Walker. Like I would do that. I'd get a younger, fresher running back. Are you going to be able to get a top 5 pick in a dynasty, rookie only draft? Probably not. Like the teams that are picking top 5 probably have a lot of holes and they're looking to get younger and some talent. But I mean, I don't think I would start young potentially with like Hall and Walker comes to mind, ETN, Pollard maybe, but I don't feel like you'll be able to get those guys. I think you can squeeze one more year out of Chubb, and I think he's going to be really good. He's still got a good offensive line there in Cleveland. It's tough to judge Deshaun in a couple games down the stretch. I mean, he hadn't played football in a couple years, but Chubb is great. Backfield could be his. I'm sure they'll draft a guy. Maybe they bring in a pass catcher, but I think we could see him potentially fall into a few more catches. So I would roll with what you got there, but make them available. Like, why not? You got to make all these guys available. You can see what you can get. You never know. Could be a big Chubb fan in your league, right? And maybe you can get something significant. What else do we got here? We can go back to this Timothy one. Timothy Jones in the house. Welcome in. Mean Streets. Can you imagine if the Giants didn't get rid of Ingram? At least they would have a legitimate receiver, but Phil and guys are doing great. I know you're happy, Chris, with the state of the Gents going up against your Eagles. I'm, you know what? I think this is going to be a very tough game for the Eagles. I think it's going to be a very, very tough game for the Eagles. I'll tell you now already, I'm going to hammer home the picks tomorrow. I need to do a little bit more research. I'm always like last second. That's kind of the way I roll. But right now, I already have it in the bet tracker. Giants plus 7.5. This is too many points. This is too many points. The total's at 48. I got to lean to the over. This is just too many points for a divisional matchup. The third time that these two teams have played each other. The first game went Philly's way. They crushed them. They scored a season high 48 points. They had 6 touchdowns. They had 254 rushing yards. That was week 14. Philly scored 24 plus points in 10 games this season. The Giants have scored 24 plus points 3 times. Philly's won 9 straight games at home against the Giants. Boston Scott is a giant eater, killer. I don't know what it is about Scott. I think 10 of his 15 touchdowns have come against the Giants. Miles Sanders, going to get into Miles Sanders' numbers a little bit more tomorrow, but Miles Sanders historically has crushed this Giants team. I think what we'll see is Philly run the ball. The thing that I have some fear with is the Giants are playing good. They're playing with house money. They're fueling themselves. Brian Daboll's fantastic, right? He's got now 2 games of data to look at. That last game doesn't really matter because the Giants rested a lot of players, but did you guys see the score of that game? Did you watch? The Eagles struggle on offense significantly. It was nice to see Jalen Hurts get in there and get a game because he had missed a couple, but I don't feel like he's fully healthy. I feel like there's going to be limitations for him. If he's not running the football, that's just, it's huge for what he was able to do. Dynamic, right? You run, you bring the safety in. That creates one-on-one matchups with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. You got Dallas Goedert. The Giants have struggled against tight ends, but they've also struggled to stop the run. So I think we'll see a lot of what we saw in that first matchup with Miles Sanders running the rock, get a little bit of Boston Scott. But if Jalen can't run, I'll be interested to see if there's going to be some quarterback design runs, because there were none in that first game back. There was none. He didn't run. He got rid of the ball quick. He didn't want to take any hits, and his ADOT was not the same as what it was all year. It wasn't taking shots down the field. But now we have a team that's feeling themselves, feeling confident. Daniel Jones is playing really good football. The wide receivers, the trio is not great. To your point, Timothy Jones, are getting a lot out of Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton, and also Richie James and Bellinger. But yeah, maybe they keep Ingram. Ingram's had a really nice season, a nice bounce back season. He had some struggles over the few years in New York with some drops, and I think Giants Nation was certainly on him quite a bit. But this is a tough spot. It's a tough spot. The third game, it's a divisional matchup. I think it's going to be very, very tight. I think the Eagles will squeak by, just like we saw Buffalo squeak by in that divisional matchup against Miami, just like we saw Cincinnati squeak by. But I take the points at 7.5. The other game, the San Fran and the Dallas game, this is at 4.5, total of 46.5. I think this game's going to be close too. I have right now, I have a lean to Dallas covering that spread. I like San Fran here, though. I think that they're going to win the game. Purdy's been playing really good. This is fun. This is a great matchup, right? These two teams have played each other so many times in the playoffs. I think about 92, 93, 94, right? Just some really good players on both of those teams. And I think Aikman and the boys won in 95, right? But, these two teams had played each other quite a bit. Last year they played each other. And of course, I know you guys remember the Dak, play at the end when he's running, and then they lose by a touchdown, and San Fran finds a way to win that game. Again, you learn some things and you take them and you move them forward. And I'm sure that McCarthy and Dak learned a lot about that matchup, right? I give the benefit to the team that lost the following year, or that first matchup, because they're the ones that can make some adjustments. What did we do wrong? Of course, the offensive side can do some things too to kind of keep you on your toes, but the Niners, they've been playing elite defense, and Purdy's been extremely, efficient, and that's Shanahan with the play calling, and CMC is going to be a problem for sure. But Dak played really good. I think that game's going to be pretty tight. Evander Kane is back tonight, Mehdi, and we will talk about the Oilers and the Kraken a little bit later on. We have some picks. We're going to break again, and we'll just kind of revisit the other side of the bracket. We got a lot more to get to here on Mean Streets, so keep her locked.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
Welcome back in. I just saw some NFL news, nothing too significant, but the Cleveland Browns did bring in a new defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, back in the NFL. I thought he did a fantastic job with the Eagles a few years ago, right? When they won the Super Bowl, the defense was certainly on point. He was a big part of that. I know Frank Reich and Doug Peterson get a lot of credit for what they did with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles that season, but Jim Schwartz, of course, it didn't work out for him in Detroit. Gove is very familiar with Jim Schwartz. He's probably like, yep. And that's going to be fun because Gove is a multi-sport guy. We can bring him in here and there. We can turn on the mic. He can chime in here and there, but I think it's a good get for the Browns. Again, there's a lot on his plate when he was a head coach with Detroit, but he's a really good defensive coordinator. He gets that side of it. So I think it's a pretty good get. I see a private total trash. go Fred's total trash in the private chat. Jim Schwartz, just total trash overall as a human being, as a head coach. You think he could potentially be fine as a defensive coordinator? Oh man, pretty good. Giants coming for you, Eagles, from Tyler, our guy. Yeah, I already kind of went into it just a little bit. I'm concerned, Tyler. I really am. I did want the Giants more so than the Cowboys, because the Cowboys, like, let's be honest, they have a little bit more to offer offensively, and they, defensively, they can certainly bring it. But yeah, the Giants, like, just be careful what you wish for, right? In that matchup. And again, they're playing with house money. It's just I don't know. It's gonna be a tight battle. On the other side, and I like Timothy. I like the call. San Fran Dallas over 46.5. I like the call, right? I mean, just the fact that San Fran, what Purdy is doing, right? Like some of these point totals. I know we brought it up in the last episode, and we talked about the team total with the Giants. Now it's too early, I think, to get to see that. I haven't checked to see what the team total is, but look at some of these point totals. 33, 35. And against Seattle, he had 21, the team 21. That was week 15. 37, 37, 38. And again, Purdy, like his first playoff game, there was some jitters there ultimately. Of course, it's normal. It's going to happen, right? With some of these, not only just rookie quarterbacks, but just, quarterbacks in their first playoff game. But in the postseason, in that first game, again, another 41 points for the team. I mean, 60% completion rate, 18 for 30. He has 3 touchdowns. He has a rushing touchdown. Giants look, the 49ers look unstoppable. Buffalo and Cincy. We'll go over to the AFC, kind of look at these two games as well. So I've seen some 5.5s. I don't know what way this is going to go. Like it's trending that it's going to get to maybe 6. I'm in on the Bengals covering this game, but I may wait it out to see if we get some 5.5s. Maybe see if we get a 6 or something. I think the Bengals are in trouble. I mean, I'm looking forward to this game. It should be fantastic. Should be a lot of points scored. As I mentioned earlier in the show, we're going to get this game that we didn't get a few weeks ago, and we're so thankful that Damar Hamlin is fine and healthy, and maybe he's there at the game. It's going to be an emotional game for sure on both sides, but I got to lean right now to the Bengals covering, but I'm going to stick true to the bracket with the Bills winning the Super Bowl here. And it's not just that they're a team of destiny, and I see people talking about that. It's none of that. I thought they learned a thing or two last year from that defeat to Kansas City. I think they're ready. I think they're ready for this moment. The game in Buffalo is huge. I think it should be an unusual side as well. I really do, but I understand why the Bengals are a little bit upset about that. But it's the offensive line. And I know the Bills are in their team, without Von Miller, they haven't been able to get that same sort of pressure. But to miss like two pieces of your offensive line, the way that Burrow was sacked last year more than anybody in a full season in the NFL last year throughout those playoffs, like he was on his butt quite a bit. I like him more as a quarterback. I feel like this game will come down to whoever has the ball last. I like the way that the Bengals defense is playing. I think they've created a lot of turnovers lately. I'm a little uneasy just picking a side here. I got to lean with Buffalo, though, ladies and gentlemen. And the 50 is high, but I think we'll see some points. I really do. It should be a really fun game. On the other side, the surprise team, Jacksonville. I know a lot of us on this show were in on the Jags, but the Chargers were favored. The Chargers were rolling in that game, and the Jacksonville Jaguars came back and found a way to win. I like this from like a future standpoint, like for Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson, who was on the coaching staff in Kansas City a few years ago, very familiar with Andy Reid. These guys have been together for quite some time. That should be a fun chess match for sure. Trevor Lawrence, right, is a sophomore quarterback into year two. His team, like, pretty young. What better experience can you get than that comeback for sure? And then also playing the best quarterback in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes, and seeing these two guys go toe-to-toe. This was a matchup that happened earlier in the season as well. All of them, again, these are all matchups, rematches, of course. The Bengals and the Bills didn't get into that. And I don't think San Fran and Dallas played each other, but a rematch from last year. But these two teams did play each other earlier in the year. Patrick Mahomes and the Jags. It was week 10. It was a 27-17 win for Kansas City. A close game. Like, the Jags kind of hung around, but Mahomes carved them up. He threw for 4 touchdowns, and he like he does in most of his games, but 26 for 35, 331 passing yards. Pacheco had 82 rushing yards. Kadarius Toney, I believe that was Kadarius Toney's first game. He had a touchdown, 4 catches, 57 yards, Kadarius Toney, and everybody just kind of ate. Like, Kelsey had 6 for 81. MVS had 3 for 60. Toney, Kelsey, and MVS all had a touchdown. Jerick McKinnon had 6 catches for 56 yards. Jerick McKinnon's been an absolute beast. We're talking one and done. I think, we have to save some of these Kansas City players for one and done, right? I think it's going to be chalky plays probably in your league, but I think you got to get involved with some of these Jags. I don't know if it's Trevor Lawrence you want to play. I don't think you need to play him. I think, Kyle, you're in a super flex, so you probably have to go with him, 2 quarterbacks. But I think, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, these are going to be guys that you want to play in your one and done, because Kansas City's going to be able to push the pace. They're going to be able to score some points. I would expect them to get 3 or 4 touchdowns again. And I do like Kansas City, of course, to win that game. But I gotta lean to the points. It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. You get a backdoor cover. You got another team, Jacksonville's kind of feeling themselves as well. First round only super flex, so regular now. Interesting strategy there. We're going to break. We're going to hammer home those picks tomorrow. We're going to have some props, I think, tomorrow, Wednesday. Hopefully, definitely by Thursday, we'll have some props. We'll get ahead early and get those lines before they do change. But what I noticed last week, the props came out Thursday morning. So hopefully they come out maybe late tomorrow or Thursday as well, and we can get into that. So we're going to say goodbye to the divisional stuff for now. Again, early leans would be the Giants 7.5. I don't think I'm going to come off of that. I'm going to wait this out if the Bengals can get to maybe 6. I do like Philly to win in a close one. I'm going to probably keep that bracket if we can bring it up one more time. I'm going to keep this bracket intact. If there's an upset brewing, it's probably that Giants one, guys. It really is. Again, I have some concerns about Philly, the way they limped into the playoffs, and Lane Johnson sounds like he's going to play, but he's not 100%. And also, I don't believe Jalen Hurts is 100% either in the way the Giants are feeling themselves. Buffalo wins. Cincy lean to the cover. Lean to the cover with Jacksonville as well, but Kansas City, and then I would say Dallas covers that, and I do like the over as Timothy Jones mentioned, 46.5. Dak looked really good. So we're going to say goodbye to the football talk for now. Actually, I lied. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson. I got 5 potential landing spots for Lamar Jackson. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts as well. Is the relationship over in Baltimore between Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens? He took to Instagram, had this crazy little cryptic post. We'll try to dissect and see what the heck it means. But also, I got 5 potential fun landing spots, and it's all about cap space in the NFL. I hear some people talking about the Saints. The Saints, Lamar Jackson. I don't think it's going to happen, guys. They're like negative 50 in terms of cap space. Zona, that's not going to happen either. Why is it going to happen? Kyler's there. We're going to talk this out here in the next block. Keep her locked.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at ftnbets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Timothy Jones says Lamar and Dobbins are on the bus out of there up to the Commanders, the Washington Commanders. So a lot of Lamar drama, and I believe his teammates, and when they talk about how he couldn't play, he's been limping around the locker room and the facility for quite some time. I think if he could play, he would have played. And I hear Michael Vick talking about, oh, I just put a brace on back in the day. Stop it. Like, come on, Vic. Like, I agree with RG3. He said he played through an injury with Washington. Timothy, I don't know if you're a Washington fan. Of course, if you are, you can remember when he played through it, and he thought maybe he shouldn't have, and he should have got paid. I mean, Lamar is. I mean, guys, he needed a new contract, right? I think it's part of it. Is he going to play through the injury and blow out his knee and then not get paid? I mean, he wants to get paid. I understand that side of it. It's at the end of the day, you got to look at these players too. They're going to provide for their families. Like, it's a lot of money. It's tough to sit here and say like, oh, he's going to get 200 plus money. Like, I mean, just play through it. You're going to get 150 million anyways if you blow your knee. But that's not. I totally get where he is coming from. But I also think if he was fully healthy, he would have suited up and played, and he wasn't. And let's be honest about the Ravens here. The Ravens have not helped him out with a wide receiver core. Like, yeah, they got Bateman, and it looked like they were going to cruise this year early on in the season. Those two were connecting. The offense looked on point. But with Huntley, this is a team that averaged 12 points per game, a massive losing streak, like well below 500 without Lamar in there, averaged 8 points fewer than with Huntley compared to Lamar. There's no question. Like, if you don't bring back Lamar, you're in a pickle at the quarterback position. You're in a tough spot to rebuild, right? You've already kind of catered your offense over the past couple of years for Lamar. They can franchise tag him, but is he going to play on this franchise tag? He could hold out. It sounds like he wants to hold out. Like, to be honest, this was the quote from him on Instagram. When you have something good, you don't play with it. You don't take chances losing it. You don't neglect it. When you have something good, you pour into it. You appreciate it, because when you take care of something good, that good thing takes care of you too. I don't know what that means. if I'm speculating, I feel like it means that he wants to get paid by Baltimore. Pay me, right? I poured my heart and soul into this. You know, give me a new contract. I don't know what's going to happen, but me personally, I feel like the relationship is dead. Timothy's a New York Giants fan. Okay. I should have known that from the Giants comments. I should have known that. I feel like the relationship in Baltimore is over between Lamar and the Ravens. I really do. I feel like there's bad blood there now. Whether the organization feels like he could have played through this and him thinking that, no, I couldn't have played through this. He wants to get paid. Do the Ravens pay him? I don't know if the Ravens pay him. I have 5 potential landing spots for Lamar Jackson. Now we have to keep in mind the cap. I got the cap up here open. Okay. So here are the teams. It's fine for Lamar Jackson. Miami, I got Miami at the top because I feel like it would be super fun, right? I know Miami, the organization said yesterday they're Tua's the guy. Who knows if Tua can even play football anymore? There's a lot of concussions in the NFL. There's a lot of uncertainty there. Lamar in Miami with Tyreek and Waddle and potentially bringing in a running back, like maybe they signed Pollard, right? And McDaniel is a head coach. I don't know if they have the pieces because I feel like the price would be, it's got to be a couple first, does it not? Like, look at the return that Deshaun Watson had. Deshaun Watson, and there was a lot of question marks surrounding Deshaun Watson. So the return would be, I think it would be significant. Miami's lost some picks over the last little bit, the tanking, not tanking, all those sort of things. They traded some capital over the past couple of years, Tyreek and Waddle. They've traded a lot. Why not just go all in? These, I feel like, are realistic and fun. New York Jets, right? New York with the young core that they have and all the pieces and Breece Hall. I'd be a little bit worried about Breece Hall from a dynasty standpoint because the way Lamar tucks and runs and calls his own number, I just like, I want Breece Hall to get a ton of touches. But Garrett Wilson, I'm not ready to close the book on Elijah Moore. I think it would be a pretty good landing spot. Seattle would be super fun. Now, it sounds like they want to stick with Geno. He led the NFL completion percentage. He had a pretty decent playoff game. They're also picking top 10 because of the trade with the Denver Broncos. Maybe they draft a quarterback. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a team that would chip off a lot of pieces and go get Lamar, but that would be super fun, right? With DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker to the backfield, and Tyler Lockett. Other landing spots here, the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons would be fantastic, I think. It'd be great. Are they sold on Ritter? I don't know. Like, Ritter was okay down the stretch. He was fine, right? It certainly saw what Drake London can do with Desmond Ritter, but London and Pitts and maybe they draft another piece. They do have some picks, right? They could trade. And then the Detroit Lions. I'd love to hear what Gove has to say about this. Maybe we can revisit this a little bit later on in the week. Jared Goff had a really good season. We were on Goff as a sneaky quarterback to draft in super flex leagues. We talked about Jared Goff, and he had a great year. The home and away things are for real, right? You know, there's certainly some bad games on the road, but what he did in Green Bay and Lambeau to knock out the division rivals in the Packers, it was fantastic. The step forward, Amon-Ra is great. Jameson Williams looks like he's going to be a player in the league. I wish they would have kept on to Hawkinson. It was weird to trade inside a division. Hawkinson, I think, is a good tight end, but they got some nice pieces there. DJ Chark's an unrestricted free agent. They may, add a piece or two as well. I think that could be a fun little environment. What do we say here? Gove says too much uncertainty about who the X factor was this year. Was it Campbell or was it Ben Johnson? That's a great topic to bring up. Ben Johnson was terrific as a play caller, and I know that he's I think he's taken some interview calls as well. He could be a head coach, but I think I don't think Goff is the answer. I think he's a nice quarterback. He's won some big games in the league, and he had a great year. But when you have a chance to maybe get a former MVP who's 26 years old, Lamar Jackson, a dual threat quarterback, think about what he can do with his legs, and you have a deep threat also in Jameson Williams. We're gonna say goodbye to that for now. I'm sure that's going to be a talking point all year with Lamar. Kyle says he likes all those. Timothy Godson loves Lamar and his New York Jets. Woody's going to pay this man. I think if you're Baltimore, you pay him. You pay him, right? I think you pay the guy because you already know what life looks like without Lamar Jackson. And it looks like you squeak into the playoffs and you get bounced early on because you can't score any points. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like. And also, if you're going to re-up with Lamar, go and get this guy a weapon. It was the lowest in terms of wide receiver room. It was the least expensive room in the NFL, them and the Colts. Go and get this guy a weapon. Do what they did with Jalen Hurts with AJ Brown. Do what they did with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Justin Fields, and the Bears are going to go get the wide receiver for Justin Fields. Go and get this guy some weapons. Yeah, Lamar likes to throw to tight ends. I hear it all the time. He likes to throw to tight ends because it's all he has is tight end. So go and get him a weapon. It's going to be a combo. all season long. We're going to break. We got some NHL picks to rat out Mean Streets. Keep it locked. Back in 8 games on the ice tonight in the NHL. Got some props and some picks. Let's start here with Pierre-Luc Dubois of the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Montreal Canadiens. A little bat beer there for us if we can get the 3 shots. -134 over at Bet Rivers. Pierre-Luc Dubois has cleared 2.5 in 6 straight games in 8 of his last 9 games, 4+ shots in 5 of his past 8. He's red hot as well. 12 points in his last 10 games, 5 goals over that span. He's +192 to find the back of the net. He's +110 for an assist, but I am going to take the over 2.5 shots. Over the last 6 weeks, according to Natural Stat Trick, the Habs have allowed the 3rd most shot attempts and the 3rd most shots at 5 and 5 per 60, and they're very, very shorthanded on the blue line and up front. I like the Winnipeg Jets to win on the puck line, +120 over at DraftKings. A couple other shot props here tonight, a couple parlays, because some of these players are pretty juiced, as you see. If you can go back to the other one, George, quickly. Travis Konechny and Philip Forsberg. The Predators are inside the top 5 and allowing shot attempts and shots at 5 and 5 per 60. Travis Konechny here has been shooting quite a bit, and Philip Forsberg, I like these guys into a parlay at +157. Matt Boldy and Matty Beniers. Matty Beniers 1.5, right? He's had 2+ shots in 6 straight games. Matt Boldy's had 4+ shots in 6 straight games. Konechny's cleared in just 6 of his last 10, but it is the good spot against the Ducks, and Forsberg 4 of his last 5. And then you have Alex Tuck in there. He's cleared in 6 of his past 8. A great spot here against the Chicago Blackhawks. McDavid has just been shooting like an animal. 8-5, 8-4-4, 5 straight games, 7 of his past 8. He has 2 goals and 6 points in his last 2 against Seattle. 16 goals scored in those 2 games, so consider the over. And then this is my long shot. I mentioned the Predators, like allowing a lot of shots at 5 and 5 per 60. He's Patrick Laine. He's got 9 shots in his last 2 games, and he had 9 shots in 1 game just 2 weeks ago. So a matchup against the Preds who played last night. And then on the way out, we got the same game parlay here. This can be done over at Bet365. So the Jets, Ehlers and Pierre-Luc Dubois, Tuck and Skinner, +125. Another Jet duo, Scheifele and Wheeler, +180. Forsberg and Duchesne against the Leaky Blue Jackets at +105. And then the line for the Seattle top line, Beniers, Burakovsky, Eberle at +400, ladies and gentlemen. And then, as Jay North says, check out Prize Picks. Taco Tuesday, 2.5 shots for Connor McDavid. Make sure you jump on that because I like the 3.5. We have Prize Picks plays over at our free pick tracker at ftndaily.com. And check out the Prize Picks prop show every day here on our FTN Network YouTube page. Good luck on the ice. We'll be back tomorrow. Cheers.